incorporate white lives into them substantially.
I have done.
In a substantial way.
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
Mic check. Mic check. Okay, mic check. What's happening? What's happening? How y'all doing? Ty, once again. Today is Friday. I'm out here, the section. Oh man, it look like my CPU is doing bad out here. But just before I have a friend of mine that is out in Texas. She's canvassing for Bernie Sanders, and I want to get her on so we can talk to her about like what's going on in Texas. Is what's because after South Carolina we have Super Tuesday, and that's what I kind of want to talk about today. Oh, I forgot the title, the daggone thing. Shoot. Anyway, Super Tuesday is coming up after South Carolina. So she's out there canvassing, and she's in Texas right now. And so we know that Texas is a part of Super Tuesday. And I just wanted to kind of get her perspective, what's going on out there. I've been seeing her on Facebook canvassing, talking to voters about Bernie Sanders and getting people on board. So I just kind of want to get it from her perspective. And let me see if I can, because this thing kind of been tripping a little bit. So hopefully it's not tripping right now and we'll be able to hear her. Let's see. Leyla?
Hi, how are you? How's everybody?
Good. How you doing?
I'm okay. A little bit tired, but good. Out here in Texas, I'm by the Valley right now, a town called Halligan, Texas, which is near the border. But
Okay.
I've been in Houston for, I don't know, more like the last week. I came from Nevada straight here.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. What do you want to know? You want to know what I'm seeing on the ground?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But so you've been how long? Well, first off, how long have you been on the ground?
On the ground in Texas.
No, just period. Because you said you was in Nevada as well, right?
Oh yeah. So I was in Iowa. I went to Iowa to help the Spanish-speaking voters there. I went to New Hampshire over just to help because they ain't no Spanish folks there.
Okay.
There are, but very few, and I really didn't get to canvass any of the neighborhoods where there were Spanish-speaking voters. And in Nevada, I was there for about a week as well, and then I've been here for a week, and I leave on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay. Where are you going after that? After Super Tuesday? Are you coming back to the Bronx?
No, I'm going to the Bronx for a little bit. I need to recharge my batteries in New York for a little bit.
I heard that.
And then I'm thinking about maybe going to Texas. I'm sorry, I'm in Texas now, to Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Puerto Rico cannot.
The 10th, right? March 10th?
March 29th
29th.
in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
They have primaries on March 29th. And they do have, they can vote in the primaries, they can vote in the presidential.
In the general, right?
Mm-hmm, the general, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So tell me, give me a little background, like, who are you?
My story?
Yeah, a little bit of it, because I think it's real unique. You know, we met a couple years ago in Chicago, so I just want them to kind of just give them a little background on what kind of has you, because there's a lot of Bernie Sanders, but there's a certain type of Bernie Sanders supporter that does what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And so
people ignore us, right? They're not for a lot of reasons. People of color, right? Not only am I an Afro-Latina, I'm also a woman, right? And also I'm someone who's formerly incarcerated. I'm a formerly incarcerated activist, and a lot of the candidates ignore my community. They forget that we can vote. In many of these states, there's over 70 million people in the United States that have a criminal record, and many of us vote. Some of us are disenfranchised. Here in Texas, there's a lot of people that are disenfranchised, but guess what? They have families. They have kids. They have brothers. They have mothers, sisters. They have people that love them that will cast a vote for them. And Bernie Sanders is the only one that has criminal justice reform on not only criminal justice reform, but he's the only candidate that is looking to allow people who have a criminal record to vote.
okay.
And not only those who have been released, but he's the only candidate that believes that even those who are still incarcerated should have the right to vote.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah, and I know a lot of them. I mean, everyone. If you think about it, everyone. Because of what I was about to say, he's the only one. You start to see before people started dropping out, they were talking about, because Florida, did that big thing where they passed that law that allowed. Yeah.
My friend Desmond needs.
The black guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was out there canvassing and working on that as well, and helping out.
Okay.
To pass amendment for, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he when he brought it up initially, then people started kind of jumping on board. But this has been like kind of what everyone's been doing ever since 2016 or maybe 2018, after they seen the pendulum shift. Everything that Bernie Sanders do, they jump on board and then kind of act like it was their plan. And now you kind of see it in the on the platform. People are talking about it. I think it's a good thing, but there's a lot of states that don't do it.
I've heard through the grapevine that now everyone, after what happened in Nevada, and they saw how Latinos came out in support for Bernie, now all of the candidates are trying to scramble, trying to find how do they get the support of Latinos, because they're kind of realizing that we're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But they haven't been paying attention to our community, and Bernie has, and he's been talking to us. So.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Like, Bernie Sanders didn't stop when he lost in 2016, because it wasn't about losing. It was about changing the politics of this country. So he kept campaigning, and that's one of the big reasons why I think he has a large percentage of the Latino vote, is because he didn't stop. And that lets you know that it's not about his political career. It was about him changing.
It's about us all the time. That's what our campaign is, right? Not me, us. It's It's not about Bernie. It's not about him. That's not what we're fighting for. We're fighting for us.
Yeah.
We're fighting for our future. We're fighting for our kids, our grandkids. It's about all of us.
For sure, for sure. So tell me what's going on the ground in Texas. How's it going?
On the ground in Texas, it's going pretty great. It's a little disappointing every time I run into someone who is disenfranchised because they're still on probation and parole. But for the most part, I see a lot of support for Bernie. I have come across a few people who, because of they've been inundated with commercials from Bloomberg, they're considering him, but thankfully I've been able to explain to them that he was our Republican mayor in New York City.
Yeah.
And not only was he our Republican mayor, he was someone whose policies were negatively impacting communities of color.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just showing them the facts, and I was able to get a few people to change their vote and who voted early for Bernie, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's really good because I think that's the one thing. That's why I think it's imperative to have like people like you out there. Is because a lot of people aren't as diligent. They aren't diligent enough. It just is what it is, and they'll look at some highlights from a debate or look at the news and see who they're voting for, and then jump on that.
Or just see a commercial and see, oh, look, Obama. So that means Obama endorsed him without doing any research and not seeing that Obama didn't endorse him.
Exactly.
And not seeing what he's done. Listen to the community. Listen to, like, I told one person that I came across, he was like, oh, well, Pete this and Pete that. I was like, look, the same way I tell people who are considering voting for Bloomberg, I ask the people that are considering Bloomberg to listen to the people on the ground in New York, the people of color in the ground in New York, and see how he negatively impacted us. The same way that I want people to listen to New Yorkers, I want also them to listen to the people of South Bend.
Yeah.
Why don't the people of South Bend support Pete?
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think, and for real, like, that's why it's important that you guys are out there, because people don't know. They do that. They look at those commercials and they look at everything. And the candidates, Bloomberg, Buttigieg, they're betting on these people. Like, they're betting on their ignorance. Like, they're just going to look at the commercials. They're not going to tune in into the general. And so I can get over if I just come
They're
off.
not on social media. They're not listening to Sean King. They're not listening to all of the people talking about how horrible they were, what their records actually were. They're not going to listen to even saying about Biden wanting to cut Social Security or any of that, about Biden writing the 1994 crime bill, about, they're not gonna see that. A lot of the older folks are not on social media, and they're not gonna see that. They're just gonna listen to the commercials, see these little clips, and those are the names that they're gonna remember when they go vote.
Yeah. That's
just because they've been seeing it.
Exactly. So, how are you feeling about South Carolina? What are you thinking?
So I'm not on the ground in South Carolina, but I do have some friends in South Carolina. I have one friend in particular who I was trying to get on here, but he's really tired. Wasn't able to do it. He's been in South Carolina for a month now. He's on the ground there. He feels really positive about it.
Really?
His interactions with folks are. He's like, what I'm hearing on the ground is not what I'm seeing in the polls. He's really confident. He says he doesn't want to give me too much hope, but he's really positive about what he's seeing on the ground there. So.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's what I wanted to know, because I remember it's a clip that I'm going to show with a guy explaining how the media was pumping up Hillary and what Trump wasn't, well, not even just with the Republican Party pumping up how Trump wasn't going to do it because of the polls, and the polls was completely off when it came to voting. And so I want to show them that, because I'm like, I think even though that guy, the older guy, that Jim Clyburn, people ain't listening to him now. They're woke.
Not only that, right? Like, It's the old folks that listen to him.
Yeah.
The young folks saying, no.
And they're betting on the young folks not to come. Like, but what they're not understanding is like this dude, and I'm not like, I can tell he has integrity, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But to keep it 100, if you're telling me to vote for somebody because of your relationship with him, really, your relationship, you've been knowing. The first thing you said is, "I know my vote a long time ago, probably before Biden even ran." So before you even knew his platform,
you're not even listening to anyone's platform, to what anyone's offering.
Exactly.
Nothing. You're just voting on him because he's your friend.
Exactly.
And how is that? No.
That's not progressive at all. That's BS.
We're tired of the establishment, and that's what people are not understanding. The young people are not. Like, we're not having it anymore.
Yeah.
You guys have ruined, like, the establishment has, they're the reasons why we have Trump.
Exactly. Exactly.
100%. We're tired.
Yep. 100%. 100%. And did you get a chance to look at or hear what Al Sharpton said yesterday? Or like two days ago?
No, I did not.
It was actually pretty good. He warned people. He endorsed Bernie, and he warned people about.
What?
Yeah, he warned people.
That's shocking.
He warned people about paying attention to these pundits and other people calling him a communist and stuff like that. Let me see. I'm gonna play it right now. You can hear. You should be able to hear it, right?
Hopefully.
Okay, hopefully. I'm gonna play it because he said they called Martin Luther King a communist. Yeah, he went in. Let me see. He did real good. I was surprised that he did that too.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
A lot of folks have been surprising you lately. A lot of these pundits are like, they're finally realizing that we're not going away.
Exactly. I mean, even MSNBC is trying to change up. Yeah.
You see the Bernie Bros thing? We're not going anywhere.
Nowhere.
We're not going anywhere.
All right, check this out.
I love me some Crystal Ball.
Yeah, I love her too.
Well, a pretty remarkable moment unfolded yesterday at a minister's breakfast in North Charleston for Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. At a time when Bernie Sanders has been facing a media onslaught and a candidate pile-on over comments about Fidel Castro's literacy program, Bernie found a very unlikely and highly effective, I have to say, defender, Reverend Al Sharpton himself.
The civil rights movement always was targeted by those that would use the Red Scare. They accused Dr. King of communist. Every major leader in the 60s, they tried to call socialists a communist. Whatever you decide to do on Saturday, do not go by those that use the socialist tag to try to separate us from what we need to do for this country, because we've been down that road before, and we are not that stupid to allow you to tell us who is what.
Now,
you see?
Honestly, I couldn't really tell you just how important a validator Reverend Al is within the black community in South Carolina at this point.
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he know.
A lot of old black folks listen to Al.
A lot of old black people do listen to Al, even though I think Al ain't shit, but still, I think he's.
I have my issues with Al.
Yeah. But I think he stood up this time because it's real, and I'm glad he brought that up.
Right thing this time.
Yeah, people for some reason forget how they treated Martin Luther King when he was here. He didn't just. It wasn't just some random died. It was it was a campaign for him to die. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep. So he did that, and I thought that was real cool. So
that was
real cool. And I'm hoping tomorrow, oh man, like if it happens where even his endorsement, like that's gonna shake up their city and it's gonna shake up the Democratic Party, because it's gonna show the Democratic Party, oh, shit is really changing. We're completely off. Like if his endorsement, if Jim's endorsement does not, doesn't do anything where Biden's man.
Yep. I'm nervous and I'm excited all at the same time because I really believe that we're gonna win big. I'm just nervous. Those polls and yeah, I'm just nervous.
Yeah. But the polls, even if Biden were to win, in every other poll, I think Bernie is winning all but 3 states.
Yep.
Out of 14.
California, it's gonna be crazy in California. And after the concert tomorrow, you heard about Public Enemy?
Public Enemy's doing a concert?
Yep, in LA with Bernie.
No, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I heard that. That's gonna be crazy. Public Enemy?
Yep.
Oh, that's hard.
My friends are driving out there from Arizona.
Really?
All kinds of places. Yeah.
What? I'm gonna go live. I feel like, do I got some stuff?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how long are you said you're in Texas until Tuesday? Wednesday?
I leave on Wednesday. Yeah, I leave Wednesday, heading back home for at least 2-3 days.
Okay, for sure.
Get some new clothing.
I know that's right. I have a couple friends out there. I got another friend that I met. Actually, a girl that I met the same weekend I met you in Chicago is out canvassing as well for Bernie.
Nice. It was a good conference.
It was. That was a real good conference. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna let you go. I just wanted to touch base with you, and I appreciate you. Hopefully, when you get here, we can see each other and hang out. But continue to do what you're doing. Get some rest.
Yeah. Thank you.
And let's make it happen tomorrow. Let's put that energy out there for tomorrow for South Carolina.
Yes. Positive energy. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate you.
For sure.
And I'll chat with you later.
All right. Thank you, Leyla.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So that was Leyla. Hopefully, let me see. I'm gonna just delete this. Delete that shot. Turn this off. Just turn that completely off. Bam. Hopefully that gives me some room. Yeah, that's Leyla. Let me see if. Hold on. Trying to set this all back up. How do I get this thing out of here? How do I turn that thing off? It's at 83. Let's get this out of here. All right, it's probably gonna stay at 83. Hopefully it don't. Hopefully I can turn this off. Normally it's a way to turn this off. I'm trying to turn off the give me 1 second. The rendezvous, the thing that had her, because it makes this thing like take for just run real slow. Hopefully it's not running slow, but I'm pretty sure it is because I'm looking at my CPU and it's like at 80 something. But anyway, yeah. So Leyla, I met her at the People's, what was it? The People's Conference in Chicago in like 2017 or 2018. And she had told me, we interviewed her, she had told me she had just got out of jail and she does a lot of stuff with criminal justice and trying to make sure that people are able to vote that were formerly incarcerated. And she does a lot of good work, and she's won a gang of awards and things like that. So I just wanted to touch base with her since tomorrow is South Carolina's primary, and then we're going into Super Tuesday. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It was Super Tuesday, and I forgot the title, the thing, Super Tuesday. But let me go here because we didn't get a chance to do this. As you all know, your to-do list, follow, subscribe, and like, hit the notification bell so you can know when I'm going live, and share this with a friend. Do that. Let me see. I'm trying to see how I can take this thing off. This should be able to go off. Turn off rendezvous. Let's see. Restream. I'm just looking at this thing right quick. There got to be a way to turn this off while I'm working. Flip. Oh, canvas. Let's see. NDI. Trying to see how I can. Okay, warning quality. Okay, I ain't trying to do that. You can't turn off rendezvous? So rendezvous just gonna stay on the whole time, I guess. Rendezvous is making this thing go slow. I should be able to turn it off. It won't let me turn it off for nothing. Okay, so I guess we can't turn it off. But anyway, so what I want to talk about today is Super Tuesday. We're going into Super Tuesday next week, March 3rd, the day after my birthday. Super Tuesday. And Super Tuesday, 14 states. Let me grab a hold of my notes right quick so we can get into it. Talk about these 14 states and what that means for the candidates that are currently in the race. I'm just grabbing my notes right quick. Bam. So we got Super Tuesday, right? Why is Tuesday so super? What's so special about Super Tuesday? What is it? Why is it so significant to the Democratic candidacy to the President of the United States? There's a reason why it's significant. So I want to lay it out for you. Super Tuesday is March 3rd. It's the largest. It's on Super Tuesday. It's the largest number of states that have their primaries all at the same day. It's 14 states, and it's the largest number of voters that will vote. So in addition to it being the largest amount of states that will vote in one day, it's the largest amount of voters, population that will vote in one day as well, and the largest number of delegates that will be given out in a day throughout the primaries. So we have a whole lot of largest. So there's 14 states plus one territory, and people that are like abroad that are citizens, they can vote all on Super Tuesday. So like I told you, it's the largest number of delegates that will be given out that are available in one day. So that is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to put this thing in my ear. That is, I need to take this back to that studio. I was fixing it. But anyway, that is, there are 1,357 delegates available for Super Tuesday. 1,300. Taking that into consideration, it takes whoever becomes a Democratic nominee has to get 1,991 votes. So on Super Tuesday, it's more than a third of the votes that are needed for the Democratic nominee. Whoever's going to be the Democratic nominee will be given out on Super Tuesday. And that's 70% of delegates. All the delegates that they have, 70% of all delegates are given out that one day on Tuesday. And so the states that are in play for Super Tuesday that are having their primary is Alabama, Arkansas, California. California just got in there. As you know, California normally is the last state that go into primaries, and I guess they campaigned to have it earlier because they were like, by the time they get to California, the nominee is damn near already decided. So California campaigned because I think it was able to get it because it's a larger state. It has a large amount of delegates. It has the largest amount of delegates, actually, California does in the Democratic primaries. California holds 415 delegates. 415 delegates. So it's the largest. Texas being the third largest at 228. And New York is not in. It's not a part of Super Tuesday, but New York is the second largest delegates. Has the second largest amount of delegates is given away during their primaries. So it's California first, New York second, Texas third. And like I said, Texas with 228, California with 415 delegates. So 14 states again is Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia. In addition to that, American Samoa and American citizens abroad all have they're able to vote all that one day. That's why it is so super. So this is probably the closest thing that we have to like a national primary day. You know how we have national elections? I guess the national primary day, the closest we have to that is probably Super Tuesday. We deal with almost every side of the country, from the South to the West to the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic, everywhere over. So this is probably, you can consider this like a national primary day. You know how in November we have our national election? You can say this is like some sort of a national primary day. Let me just make sure that I am on. See, I'm talking, I knew that happened. I hate when I do that. I'm sorry, I forgot to put my image on there. My bad. So I'm gonna get it together, y'all. One day I'm gonna get it together. And in the coming weeks, as we get situated, I start to be able to schedule myself out more and get used to doing everything. Right now I'm doing everything, doing the videos, doing the shooting, doing it all by myself versus having a couple people. So I may forget some stuff, but as I get used to it, then I'll make sure that I'm remembering things, because I know that would have been frustrating to me. I'm like, why can't I see him? But so as of now, as of today, thinking about as we are getting ready for South Carolina's primary, and it'll be going tomorrow, and after that primary, we're going right into Super Tuesday. At this time, Bernie Sanders and Bloomberg has spent the most money for Super Tuesday. Like the states, the 14 states that's in play for Super Tuesday, Bernie Sanders and Bloomberg has spent the most money. Bloomberg spending over $153 million in campaign ads for the states that's in play for Super Tuesday. I'm not sure how much Biden. I couldn't find the amount that Biden. I think Sanders spent like 10 million. 10 million. I think that's what it is. It was 10 million that Bernie has spent in those states. Biden hasn't spent any money. He has not spent a dime in those Super Tuesday states. Why, you ask? That's cause for a lot of assumptions. But if I could give an assumption, I would say because he doesn't feel confident in winning South Carolina. Really, I think that's probably one of them. And if he either doesn't feel comfortable that he would win by a large amount where he'll start to get enough money to be able to move forward into Super Tuesday, or he feels that if he does win, it's just going to be by, a small amount, or he just won't win. And that's why, because there's no way that you're going to go into Super Tuesday and only have 3 days to campaign, to have presence there, to have ads 3 days. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. And there's no way I can wrap my mind around how that could possibly make sense, unless you just don't want win Super Tuesday? Are you really thinking that maybe it's not going to work out for you? Oh, by the way, hello to everybody on Facebook, YouTube. If y'all all out there, let me see who on here. We kind of started a little, not haphazardly, but I was doing like 50, 11 other things. Let me see who all on, who's on Facebook. Just so I can say what's up, I can recognize. Because it took a little bit, there was something going on with that, the live streaming and stuff, so it took a minute and it kind of had me a little flustered. That's why, I don't know if you noticed, I had my phone up to it because for some reason her audio wasn't going through. So, let me see. We got some people on this Friday. I doubt if people on Facebook on a Friday. Is it people on Facebook on Friday? Dang. It's probably not. I'm looking at it. The stream looks all messed up. Yeah, I don't know. There's nobody on Facebook. I got one person. That one person probably me. See how many people on YouTube. Let's go. What's up with it? If I would have titled this thing, maybe I would have people on here. Okay. I got 3 people watching. What's going on? Who's all on YouTube watching? Let's see. AP, good to see you, Ty. Andy, good to see you as well. What's going on? Hopefully, you guys put the word out that I'm doing that I got my own channel now, and this is my regular channel that you own, Andy. But if you find, like, it's called The Section Independent. It's on YouTube as well. So I appreciate you tapping in though, and let people know so we can get this thing going on. By the way, matter of fact, since I'm talking about it, why don't y'all go ahead and hit the like button, hit the get the share button, hit the bell notification so y'all can know when I'm going on. I'm starting to get in a schedule where I'm going every day, especially right now since we got the primaries going. I feel like I have an obligation to my family, half of them that want to vote for Biden, and to everybody else I know that's not tapped into the elections, to give them information on why they should not be voting for Biden at all. So, what's going on, Andy? I appreciate you. Let's see who else we got on here. I'm just looking through. We'll switch channels right quick. At some point, I'm be able to consolidate like every channel that I'm going live on, so that I can see all the comments from each channel, from each platform, like from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and be able to respond to them and not just not respond to them. Have everybody on here. Okay, so I got 3 on each one. What's going on? What's the word, everybody? Who's on this one? Eric B, what's cracking? How fucking crazy is that the Democrat leadership is openly allowing this? They are very scared. What are they scared of, bro? They are hoping Kamala Harris would be in the race still. You ain't lying, probably so. Bloomberg has spent over $500 million so far since October. That's since October, really? Before he even got in the race? And he spent more than that. He spent more. He's already spent 152 in the 14 states leading up to the to Super Tuesday, to next week. He probably spent more than that. Eric, what's cracking though, bro? But anyway, so that's that's why I want to get into Super Tuesday and why it's significant and what y'all need to know as we move forward into Super Tuesday. It's a couple clips that I wanted to get into. Okay, I already showed that one. Let's see, Super Tuesday. So I always think Chris Saliza, I think it's Saliza. He always give us some good information on kind of what's going on with Super Tuesday and things like that. And so we're going to check him out right quick, and then we're going to get back into it. Mic check. All right. Got him.
Good question. So the Democratic National Committee decided that 4 states, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, were the only states that would be allowed to hold votes in February of this year. And there's lots of reasons for that decision, but the main one is that these states have been voting first in presidential contests for a long time now, and they protect that status, New Hampshire, I'm looking at you, very, very carefully. So the DNC decree meant that the earliest date you could schedule a presidential vote if you didn't live in Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, or South Carolina was Tuesday, March 3rd, which is what a whole lot of states did. Why? Well, because the earlier in the nominating calendar your state votes, the more attention, read money, it gets from candidates, and the more coverage your state's race gets from the media. It's just attention dollars, folks. And the biggest mover in this calendar shakeup was California, which went from a June primary near the bitter end of the nomination fight all the way up to March 3rd. Quote, historically, we've been so late in the primary schedule that the nominees for president have been determined by the time Californians go to the polls. That's California's Secretary of State Alex Padilla talking to CNN in 2018, and he went on to add this. By moving that up, we hope to have a real say in determining the nominees for president of all parties. End quote. Well, judging by the amount of attention Democratic candidates have been lavishing on California, the plan worked. Both Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg have spent time and loads of money in California over these last few months. Bloomberg, a billionaire who is financing his own campaign, has already spent, wait for it, nearly $40 million on ads in California alone. And he expects to have up to 800 staffers in California by the time Super Tuesday rolls around. That's all according to the New York Times. Now, by contrast, Sanders has 90 staffers in California, which is still a lot, and his campaign told the New York Times that it knocked on 400,000 doors and made 3.5 million phone calls in the state in just the past year. Now, polling in the state suggests Sanders is well positioned to claim the bulk of the delegates, or at least the most in the state, while Bloomberg is in the low double digits, crowded with a pack of other candidates that includes, among other people, former Vice President Joe Biden, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, and former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. So looking across all 14 states set to vote on Super Tuesday, it is Bloomberg, this won't surprise you, he's worth $60 billion, who has spent more than $120 million on ads in just those 14 states. A stunning figure that really does speak to his massive wealth and his willingness to spend it. Sanders is second in the ad wars, but it's spent under $10 million total on Super Tuesday states as of mid-February. So no matter what happens on March 3rd, Sanders and Bloomberg will get delegates and they will continue on in the race. That same thing may not be true for Biden, the one-time frontrunner for the nomination who finished 4th in the Iowa caucuses and 5th in the New Hampshire primaries. For Biden to keep going, he has to hope that his current strength in the Black and Hispanic communities carry him to wins in the 6 southern states, that's Alabama, Arkansas, North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia, that are set to vote on Super Tuesday, March 3rd. The Democratic electorate in each of those states is likely to have a significant chunk, maybe a decisive chunk, of non-white voters that Biden must dominate among. And if he does that, he'll secure a delegate foothold that will keep him in the race for at least the rest of the month of March. Make no mistake, campaigns will be made and broken on Super Tuesday, which makes March 3rd super important. And that is the point. We make new.
That is the point. That is exactly the point. That campaigns will be made and broken on Tuesday, March 3rd, the day after my birthday, March 2nd. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Read this article that I came across just to give some more context on the importance of Super Tuesday, why it's important, and just to have you understand and to get more. Like I said, my entire purpose here is to give more context on these elections so that y'all can be informed, because I think a lot of people come into understanding about these elections and things like that maybe right before the primaries end, or they get information, you know, they look at the highlights from a debate on CNN, or they listen to pundits on CNN and MSNBC, especially MSNBC, who hates Bernie, and kind of decide based on that information. And a lot of it is just their opinion based on bias, you know. So I'm gonna tell you what's really going on and have you understand why Tuesday is super, just to elaborate on what Chris was saying. And let's go there. So this article is from USA Today, and it says, why is Super Tuesday so important? What's a delegate, and what happens at the brokerage convention? Oh yeah, so that's another thing too. I'm gonna touch on super delegates. Super delegates is a big thing. It's been on the news. People talking about how, you know, super delegates are kind of the thing that boxed Bernie out of the Democratic nomination in 2016. So what a super delegate is, it's to say if there's candidates, and this is why they're talking about candidates dropping out or not dropping out, and a lot of times it can come off as a plot when you think about certain candidates that don't want to drop out and want to just stay, even if they don't have the votes, because what could possibly happen with super delegates once they get to the Democratic convention in June. And what a super delegate says is, so let's say Nevada, Bernie won all the delegates, right? Those are the people speaking. Delegates that's based on the population and the people that, however many delegates that they get, the Democratic Party, it's based on the population, and it's based on people that's a part of the DNC for whatever state that is, like Nevada. So we win those delegates, and so based on that, I'm going to win, and I'm gonna just throw numbers out there just so you can get it. I'm gonna win 5 delegates in Nevada. And that's based on what the people in Nevada said. They gave me 5 delegates because I won 48% of the vote, you know, and then they gave 2 to my brother because he won 20% of the vote. So that's how they give delegates out, by the percentage. And you have to be viable. So which means any candidate that gets over 15% can get a delegate. They can get a delegate. And this is the reason why, based on how many people are in the amount of people that's running to be president. This is why it's unlikely that someone would go in with enough delegates, with 1,991 delegates, which is what you need to become the Democratic nominee. That's why it's unlikely for someone to come in with that many, because any candidate that gets over 15% of a state's vote are eligible for delegates. So they have to get delegates. Regardless of anything, they have to get delegates. And so because of that, the delegates are spread out a lot, and just one candidate won't be able to receive enough delegates to walk in the Democratic convention with 1,991 delegates to claim the Democratic to be the Democratic nominee. So if I go in and let's say the state gives me 5 delegates, so I got that from the state. We campaigned, we went, the people spoke. I got 5 delegates. So we go into the convention, and I don't have enough delegates to claim the nomination. And so what happens is they go into a second round of voting. Now we got everybody, is still 5 people here. They got 5 delegates. They got 10 delegates. I got however many delegates I have. And so then they go to super delegates. Now, the super delegates are not people. The super delegates are people that's chosen, and the majority of people that hold super delegates are people that used to former elected officials, people that the DNC pick, people that the DNC, the Democratic National Committee picks. And then those people say, okay, I'm going to give even if Nevada gave me five delegates, and I have that. But a super delegate will say, you know what, just for whatever reason, I don't like Bernie. So I'm going to take Bernie's 5 delegates and I'm going to use my super delegate and give it to that person over there. That's what makes super delegates unconstitutional. I don't even know why they have it in the Democratic Party. So it will override any delegates that you received during the primary campaign. So we're going to go ahead and just go into this article about delegates and super delegates. So more than a third of the 2020 Democratic presidential primary votes will be cast this Tuesday. Just raise this up a little bit so I can see, what is this? Oh, interesting. Did they upgrade? All right. So far, 2020 Democratic presidential hopefuls have been battling it out for delegates in the 4 early voting states: Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. As we all know, Bernie won a popular vote for all of them. And, you know, Iowa was messed up and he won by, like, I think, he lost by 1.1% of the delegates, but I'm sure if they would have recounted, he probably would have won. But he won the popular vote for all 4 states. So anyway, each with its own delegates, each with its own debate night. So what they're saying is each state that had their primaries already, every time there was a debate right before the primary. But they'll all be competing in multiple states that have primaries on the same day, Super Tuesday. The day that's talked about throughout the primary season is an important one for Democratic candidates, as it could significantly shape the direction of the remainder of the race and has the potential to establish a breakout frontrunner. Or it could bring multiple campaigns within striking distance of one another. So, what is Super Tuesday and why does it matter? And what's all the talk about a brokered convention or a contested convention? They call it that as well. We break it down. On March 3rd, 2020, also known as Super Tuesday, the largest number of states have their primaries on the same day. The largest number of voters will make their presidential choice, and a large number of delegates is up for grabs. On March 3rd, 14 states and 1 territory from across the country have primary elections: Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, and American Samoa. Voters in all Super Tuesday states will participate in a primary, while Democrats and they're going to do their caucus. In American Samoa, I should just read it. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm dyslexic. I don't know if y'all know that, but I am. And so it takes me a little time to read. And sometimes I jump forward because of my insecurities about that. But anyway, Democrats abroad also start voting on Tuesday and can vote through March 10th. So Democrats abroad can vote through March 10th, but they can start voting on Tuesday as well. We likely won't have a complete results of the night, as polls close. The polls close at varying times across time zones, and large states like California likely will take a longer time to tabulate votes. So, what is a delegate and what is a superdelegate? You're likely hearing a lot about delegates, the race for delegates, and who is leading amongst the national pledge delegates. But what does that mean? What does all that mean? A pledged delegate is a person selected to represent the interests of the state's voters at the Democratic National Convention in July. Delegates are awarded to states based on total population. So it's like you know how it's kind of in the same vein as how they determine a state's how many representatives the states have is based on a state's population. That's why it's important to do the census that they have every 10 years so they can know not only the population but also the demographics, because that's how you can get funding, federal funding for certain programs in certain communities is based on, you know, the population, how many of a certain type of group are there. So just a sidebar, make sure that the census is coming out in 2020, make sure that you're part of it and you let them know that you exist. So delegates are awarded to states based on total population. So the heavily populated California has many more delegates than a state like Utah. So this is delegate versus superdelegate. Delegates are pledged to candidates based on the results of the state's caucus or primary. In addition, a certain number of so-called superdelegates can vote for whichever candidate they choose in the case of a contested convention and are not bound by the state's electorate choice. So superdelegates are not bounded by the state's electorate vote. So that means the regular delegates that they're getting right now, a superdelegate can supersede that. They are typically party leaders and elected officials. So superdelegates, this is something that only the Democratic Party does, by the way. The Republicans do not do this. This is something that they just put in place. And then I think they put this in place during the time when I think LBJ was running, if I'm not mistaken. No, not LBJ. Who was president? Carter. It was the president right before Reagan. When Carter was running, they thought it was a liberal. I can't think of his name, but I won't say he's Bernie Sanders-like, but they probably had the attitude that he was. And so they made these super delegates because they didn't want him to become the Democratic nominee because he had a whole lot of momentum. Oh, it was when Nixon was running. I'm sorry. It was when Nixon was running. So in previous elections, superdelegates were able to cast their votes in the first round. So that's what happened with Bernie in 2016. Superdelegates were cast in the first round, which overshadowed his delegates that he earned throughout the primaries. And that's what he was upset about, that the states that he won was then taken away from him when he went to the convention, because the superdelegates all went to Hillary Clinton. And so this is what the news and everyone has been talking about when Bernie Sanders said at the last, in Nevada, the last question when he was asked, everyone was asked, once you get to the convention, do you feel like superdelegates should be in play, or should the candidates get the vote, keep the delegates that they received during the race? Everyone else said the superdelegates should be in play except Bernie. And that's what everybody been talking about. Like all of a sudden, Bernie changed his mind. So in previous elections, superdelegates were able to cast their votes in the first round, but now it's in the second round. But they will no longer. So the Democratic Party had a unity committee after Hillary lost and after Bernie was knocked out, to try to unite the progressive wing, which was Bernie, and then Hillary, the neoliberal wing. And so what they did is vote on not allowing superdelegates to be a part of the first round of voting, and say, so if they don't find anyone in the first round, they'll do it in the second round, kind of like what happens in caucuses. So the new rules follows 2016 results when superdelegates sided largely with Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. See, that's what I'm talking about. I could have just read that. How many delegates are there, and how many do you need to win? So there are a total of 3,979 pledged delegates from all states and territories, and the candidate needs 1,991 of them to win the first vote at the Democratic National Convention. There are an additional 771 superdelegates, or automatic delegates, who can vote for any candidate they choose. The convention comes, and if the convention comes to the second round of voting, they can choose anyone. So this is where we are today. As of, when was this written? Just want to see so I can make sure this came out, 6 hours ago. It was updated. That's all we need to know. So as of 6 hours ago, Bernie Sanders leads the race with 45. He leads the primaries right now with 45 delegates. Under Pete Buttigieg has 25. Biden 15, Elizabeth 8, Amy 7. So Bernie right now is leading by double digits. And what I mean by that is he's leading the one under him. That's the first one under him by double digits. A lot of times when they do polls and stuff, they talk about the last person. So the last person, he's beaten by double digits, but it's it's large. He's down there beaten by 30 points. So how many delegates are up for grabs March 3rd? So the reason Super Tuesday is so significant is because there are 1,344 delegates awarded out of the 14 states and one territory to vote that day, or about 34% of all pledged delegates. So 30% of Super Tuesday delegates in California. So 30% of the 1,344 delegates coming out of California. So California, because it's a big state, large population, large number of representatives. California has 415 delegates that they're going to be able to give away to the candidates, the Democratic candidates. Anyone that's viable means anyone that's in play that gets over 15% of votes in that state will be able to get at least one delegate. You got North Carolina, they have 110 delegates. Virginia has 99. Massachusetts has 91. Minnesota has 75. Alabama has 52. Oklahoma has 37. Colorado has 67. Tennessee has 62. Texas is another big one, has 228. Maine has 24. Arkansas has 31. Utah has 29. Vermont has 16. And American Samoa has 6. So what happens if a candidate doesn't earn the majority of the pledged delegates? So at the Nevada Democratic debate, candidates were asked whether they thought the Democrat with the most delegates should automatically be named the Democratic nominee if no candidate reaches the 1,990 majority required to secure the nomination. Senator Sanders was the only candidate that said yes, arguing that it would be the will of the people, which is absolutely right. If no candidate reaches the threshold of the nominating convention, however, the Democratic Party could be looking at what's called a brokered or contested convention. That means a contested convention is something that happens. I think it happened in 1968. Was it 1968? 1968 or either 1964. They had this huge riot in Chicago during the Democratic convention. It was either LBJ. I think it was LBJ. It was either LBJ going into his first term after, this is the first time he got voted in after JFK was assassinated, or it was when Nixon was running and I think it was Goldwater and somebody else was trying to get the Democratic nomination, if I'm not mistaken. But they had this huge fight, and people were fighting. And then they had this huge riot outside, and the police beat up a lot of people. So if no candidate reaches the threshold at the nominating convention, however, the Democratic Party could be looking at what's called a broker or contested convention, a scenario that would likely mean heightened tensions for the party split on how progressive and moderates its nominees should be, or on how progressive or moderate its nominees should be. So let's check this out right quick.
It's where a sweet tooth can meet their sweet ride. We met on Cars.com.
Come on now. Boy, I swear to God.
Worried your Tax Act refund is too good? Don't be. Tax Act is backed by a $100,000 accuracy guarantee. Remember, it's not stealing if it's already yours. Start filing today at taxact.com.
Tax Act's surprisingly illegal.
Before Taco Tuesday was a thing, Tuesdays were just super, as in Super Tuesday, but only once every 4 years. Tuesday was an important day for voters dating back to 1845, when Congress decided that day and not the weekend made the most sense to bring voters into town. The phrase Super Tuesday didn't emerge until 1976. 12 years later, in 1988, the modern notion of Super Tuesday was born. That year, Democrats attempted to alter the primary calendar to produce a more moderate Democratic nominee. On Tuesday, March 8th, 14 southern and border states and 6 outside the region held their primaries. The goal? Shift influence away from Iowa and New Hampshire and increase the likelihood of nominating a more conservative Democratic candidate. Front-loading the primary calendar with southern states was meant to do just that. The strategy didn't work. The votes split the Democratic Party between Tennessee Senator Al Gore, Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. Dukakis, a northern liberal, won the Democratic nomination and lost out to George H.W. Bush in the presidential election. After 1988, several southern states opted out of Super Tuesday, and Super Tuesday never fulfilled its goal of bringing Democrats to the center. But it still has remained a decisive day. Presidential nominees can win more delegates on Super Tuesday than on any other day in the election cycle. In 2000, Al Gore and George W. Bush performed so well on Super Tuesday, it convinced their main challengers to withdraw from the race a few days later. John Kerry had similar luck in 2004, as did John McCain in 2008. This year, 14 states will vote, along with American Samoa and registered Democrats living abroad. As in years past, the results very well may predict who will win the party nomination.
May predict, but given this Democratic Party, who knows, right? So, so in a broker convention, so mind you, I was completely wrong. I said, I think I gave you a different date, but I guess it was 88 is when they tried to bring the Democratic Party more to the center. Mind you, during that election, if you guys don't know, is when the Democrats were really trying to, there was this idea or this kind of rhetoric that the Democratic Party was too liberal and very easy on crime. That's how Dukakis lost. That a lot of people that were alive at that time probably remember the campaign ad that Bush did about, I can't think of the guy's name, Willie something, and he was a guy that went to jail, and Michael Dukakis in his state allowed him to have weekend furloughs. Well, on the weekend furlough, he killed someone, and so George H.W. Bush used that in one of his campaign ads, saying that Democrats were soft on crime. And so that ad is what took the presidency away from Michael Dukakis. And ever since then, the Democrats have always been trying to get to the center. And so that's when they started to get more aggressive with crime. And the Democratic Party, you know how the crime bill that ended up happening 6 years later in '94. But before that, they passed legislation that established a thing called the conspiracy rule, which a lot of people is doing life in jail right now. One of the ladies that Donald Trump let out of jail was in jail for 24 years for that conspiracy law. Conspiracy law says that if someone gets arrested, if I get arrested for selling drugs and then I say, my friend Michael gave me the drugs and I've been selling it for him, they can arrest Michael and without any evidence, charge him and convict him based on just me saying that. Even if when they arrest him, they don't find anything, they can convict him on that. And a lot of people went to jail on a conspiracy law. And this is something that the Democrats put in play. And they did a whole lot of harsh criminal laws that affected black and brown communities. Democrats did. Period. Black and white Democrats. All of them did. The Democratic Party, which, as we know, is not the majority of the voting base. The voting base in this country is independents. Independents, 42% of this country identify politically as independent. Only 30% of this country identify as Democrats, and only 26 identify as Republicans, meaning the majority of this country is sick and tired of both of them. And so they pick and choose as everything goes on. And so just, a pin there when people try to tell you, the Democrats, it don't matter how the Democrats feel because they're not the voting bloc. We want these people right here. There's enough progressives that identify as Democrat. So if we were able to get them, because this is who Trump was able to get to become the president. I know that because I followed the 2016 campaign, and a lot of those people that voted for Trump, I'm not even showing y'all the graphic, man. My bad. As we know, 42% identify, and this is from the Gallup poll, 42% of Americans identify as independents, 30% identify as Democrats, and 26 identify as Republicans. So that lets us know that 42% is what Trump tapped in to win a presidential nomination. So when Democrats say, or these pundits say that, the Democratic Party, they don't want a progressive liberal, quote unquote, self-called socialist. Yeah, they do. Because based on everything that I saw in 2016, the majority of people, a lot of people that I interviewed that were Trump supporters said if Bernie was the nominee, they would have voted for Bernie because they both had a populist message. Obviously, Trump was a liar. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to take away Social Security and everything right now, Medicare and all that. But Bernie's not. So you got 42. That's who we need to tap into, that 42% right there. We don't need to worry about the Democratic Party. There's enough, like I said, Democratic socialists that identify as Democrats. We get them plus the independents, we're in the game. So we don't have to worry about all the BS. But that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this too, is because I feel like if we don't get this information and we don't talk about what's really going on, these pundits will scare you into voting for somebody like Biden or for somebody like Bloomberg. Like, really? We will compromise everything? These Democrats is trying to push Bloomberg as much as they talked about Trump and what he did with women and XYZ. Wow. But if y'all didn't know, y'all didn't know. I've been to the Democratic Party is parallel to the Republican Party. They just care about women's rights, and gay rights, and women issues. That's the only thing that differentiate the Democratic Party from the Republican Party. Is the Democratic Party, their politics at least say that all people are equal under the law. You know what I'm saying? That's probably it. Outside of that, they take money from the same people Republicans take money from. They don't want to undrain the swamp. They're in everyone's pockets, and they're compromised. But where was I at? So look, make sure y'all can see this. Okay. So look, if no candidate crosses the 1,991 threshold, in addition, 771 superdelegates get to vote on the nominee. Those individual votes for whomever they choose, meaning they could push one candidate over the edge, even if that candidate was not leading in the pledged delegates. Candidates need a majority of the total pledged delegates plus superdelegates to win the nomination. Want to talk more about politics? Nope. So, Democratic primaries and pledged delegates. February 3rd. In Iowa, what was that, 3? New Hampshire, 11. Nevada, 22. South Carolina has 54. Up for grabs. This is like a breakdown of everything. So, who is leading in the polls so far in each state? So far, Vermont's Senator Sanders has fared well in the primary challenges and polling, but it's still a relatively crowded field. And the vast majority of delegates are still up for grabs. Super Tuesday will also mark the official entrance of the former New York Mayor, Mike Bloomberg, who will appear on the ballot for the first time. Sanders leads in 9 states where there has been polling. No polling specifically about the Democratic primary has been conducted in Alabama or Tennessee during the 2020 election. So, let's see who's leading in the 9 Super Tuesday states. The polls that has already come out. Like they said, Tennessee and Alabama hasn't done it yet. In California, so the color represents, like how you see how Sanders is in, I don't know, is that aqua green? That's Sanders. He's winning right there. So, and then it all represents that. So, you see in California, Sanders is winning 23 points. He's winning in Texas, 22. He's winning in North Carolina, 21. He's winning in Virginia, 25. He's winning in Massachusetts, 20. He's winning in Colorado, 30. He's winning in Utah. He's winning in Maine. He's winning in Vermont. The states so far that's been polling, the 9 states, there's only 3 that he's not winning in. Arkansas. Who's winning in Arkansas? You got Bloomberg. I don't know what's wrong with them. Obviously, that's going to change. Oklahoma, you have Bloomberg. Minnesota, you have Klobuchar is winning in Minnesota. But in those 3 states that he's not winning in, he's still in the top 3. He's right here. You see in the green. So, what does that say? It says that we're in a good position. And hopefully, like I said, I was interviewing Leyla earlier, if you guys saw, but we had another guy that's actually on the ground in South Carolina, but he couldn't get on the phone. I thought I was going to be able to interview him. But he said what he's seeing on the ground in South Carolina is completely different than what they're talking about on the news. So there could be an upset. What are you doing? Flip. What are you doing? There could be an upset. Y'all want to see the cat? Let me show you the cat. Come here, Flip. Come here. Come here. Come here. Flip. Flip. Come here. Come here. Okay. All right, come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, I can't. Jesus Christ. See if I can get him right quick. Come here. Look at this. Look at this fat little thing. Look at this fat little thing. Say what's up, Flip. Say what's up, Flip. He don't want to say hi to nobody. But that's Flip. He's hungry. I'm gonna feed him in a minute. That's my mouse catcher. I'm in New York. I never liked cats until I got here and they said that there's a possibility to have mice. I fell in love with this cat. He can have anything you want. He got fur all over my stuff. It don't even matter. But anyway, this guy is saying it's looking completely different than what they're talking about on the news. So we could be up for a surprise tomorrow. So we all gonna wait for that. And I think that's all I gotta say about it. So tomorrow, I'm gonna probably go live tomorrow too, since the vote is going on tomorrow, and we'll see what happens, man. Right? So y'all remember to share, tell people about it, highlight it. Like I said, as we continue to go forward, the intention, obviously, I want to get out there, raise money. We're doing super chats, marathons. Allowing people to give so that I can be on the ground, hire somebody to do the camera so I can be out there interviewing and giving a black progressive perspective on what's going on the things that we care about in the section. This is the section, baby. All right, so just remember the to-do list. Follow us, subscribe, like, notifications, and share this page.